Is that what you're saying?
You heard what the hell I said. He had 8 games where he had single-digit shot attempts.
If Nikola Jokic wins the MVP, he's the worst player to win the MVP since Dave Cowan.
And by the way, I think that's why we're likely about to have a 3-time MVP. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in the league.
When it comes to MVP voting, 80% of the voters are white American. 20% are others.
This year, Nikola Jokic is leading the field for the regular season MVP award, which demonstrates how far ahead of the competition the Joker is, making his monopoly. However, it also wears down voters and makes some of them envious that they couldn't accomplish what a non-athletic slow big man makes look easy. Because of this jealousy, some of them have said some outrageous things about Nikola, most notably former NBA player and ESPN analyst Kendrick Perkins. Let's see what Perkins and a few other NBA players and analysts have to say about Jokic, and if it makes sense to believe such things. Let's begin by listening to what Perkins has to say. When I inquire what the MVP criteria are and how the goal posters move, I'm simply curious about the songs we're dancing to. I'm asking these questions for a reason. Out of all the players who have won MVP since 1990, only 3 have finished outside the top 10 in scoring. Do you know who they are? They were Steve Nash, Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki. What do those 2 guys share? He didn't want to come out and say it, but we all understood what he was trying to express, so I'll let it sit there and marinate you. They're all white. Perkins prefers to use the eye test instead of more complex statistics. Reddick, a member of the First Take crew, vigorously contested Perkins' opposing viewpoints, successfully refuting them using a mix of statistical and visual test reasoning. As Reddick aptly noted, I know you don't like sophisticated statistics, but I need to address this because I missed this earlier. The idea that a player's teammates take good or bad shots allows us to measure which players provide high-quality shooting opportunities for their teammates, and when you watch them play, which I know you do, Nikola Jokic ranks in the top 5 for creating high-quality shot opportunities. He makes a read when deciding whether to take a shot or make a play because that's what skilled basketball players do. When he gets double-teamed, he kicks it out, and when he sees help approaching too soon, he swings it to the corner for an open 3. It's a smart pass that makes for the most effective 3-point shot in basketball. Perkins had to firmly voice his hesitancy regarding the MVP standards and the methods used to evaluate players, whether it be club records or something else entirely. Advanced statistics, the eye exam, or, for that matter, any other element. Nick Wright, a devoted LeBron James supporter known for his outspoken opinions in NBA media, is another NBA analyst who has doubts about Nikola Jokic's MVP award. He didn't hold back on this one either. When you look at the list of MVPs throughout league history, Nikola would rank as one of the weakest MVPs in the last 35 years. Chris Paul, on the other hand, wouldn't fit into that category because he is an all-time great player. Nick went on to say that Nikola Jokic is simply a talented player who is enjoying a strong season. When I said 2 years ago that I had Nikola Jokic as the second in the MVP race behind Chris Paul, I was called a Nikola Jokic hater. However, Chris Paul's team swept him in the playoffs, so the second argument doesn't even hold water, according to Nick Wright, who clarifies that he doesn't consider himself a Nikola Jokic hater despite being swept that year. Nikola Jokic played remarkably well in the series against the Suns, averaging 25 points, 13.3 rebounds, and 5.8 assists, leading his Nuggets in these 3 statistical categories. However, it is important for people to realize that the NBA MVP award is only given for the regular season and is based on a player's performance in the 82 games leading up to the playoffs, not during the postseason. When someone like Nick Wright brings up playoff success in the regular season MVP conversation, it's best to ignore them because it's much simpler that way. However, be ready for them to continue arguing. Last year, I was called a hater because I said that there are 2 guys in the Western Conference carrying mediocre teams. Chris Paul's team defeating Nikola Jokic's Nuggets doesn't affect Paul's MVP race. Everyone said, "Oh Nick, you're showing nepotism, you're biased," when Nick brought up Jokic and Luka. However, I insisted that Luka was superior, and Luka advanced to the Western Conference Finals. Listen, Jokic, Nick stressed. He would have been the clear favorite again if he hadn't won those 2 MVPs. Let's say it together. Success in the playoffs. This case demonstrates that Draymond Green is not a factor in winning the regular season MVP award. Instead, the most valuable player of the season should win the award, whether it is their first time or not. This phenomenon is known as voter fatigue. ESPN's Max Kellerman recently made a somewhat unexpected claim. I've never seen such a discrepancy, when a player dominates the MVP award but hardly places in my top 5 after saying that. ESPN colleague Kendrick Perkins said that in order for Jokic to win future MVP awards, he must show that he can succeed in the playoffs. It's pretty ridiculous to say that Jokic isn't one of the top 5 players in the league, especially when he's leading his team to the conference's top seed and regularly recording triple-doubles. That being said, it's important to keep in mind that, as the name suggests, the NBA regular season MVP awards only take performance during the regular season into account. Let's also dispel this fallacy. During the Nuggets series loss to the Golden State Warriors, the eventual champions in the 2021 and 2022 playoffs, Jokic was surrounded by players who were not particularly productive. For the underperforming Washington Wizards, Monty Morris was only scoring 10 points per game on average. Released by the same struggling Wizards was Will Barton. Last season, Austin Rivers averaged 5 points per game, compared to Green's 6 points per game average. Highland's field goal of 39, along with DeMarcus Cousins and Bryn Forbes in the NBA, Draymond Green is well known for being frank and a dedicated student of the game. During a Nuggets game, you can frequently see Draymond absorbed in videotapes of players from all over the league noticing nuances that others frequently miss. During a Nuggets game, Draymond noticed several defensive breakdowns by Jokic in the first half. He recalled that I had 4 films and I concentrated on Jokic's defense. He is the cornerstone of their defense, thus I was thinking that he needs to improve defensively if they ever hope to be a strong team. Draymond was quite blunt in his criticism of Jokic's defensive plays, pointing out that I had shown him 4 clips in which he failed to rotate to the low man and appeared sluggish. Later, Draymond said that Jokic started using those same defensive rotations, and the following year, he came up to me and said something like, "I saw what you said about my defense and you were right, or I appreciate your feedback," adding, "I've improved." I told him that "You've definitely improved, and I've been watching you this year and you've made great progress." Looking ahead, it's evident that Draymond has the makings of an outstanding NBA analyst once his playing days are over. This is undoubtedly an example of how constructive criticism can do wonders in a player's performance, but there have been a few instances where trash-talking Nikola Jokic has proven to be his fuel as well. Draymond reflected on this encounter, saying it was a significant moment for me because this TV gig is relatively new. Dwight Howard, Russell Westbrook, and Morris have all attempted to enter the Joker's head but eventually failed at trash-talking. The same thing happens when you suggest that the Joker's MVPs are won for racist reasons. It makes you seem foolish. All 3 of these men who have attempted to outsmart Jokic have failed. Unless you start agitating him, Nikola Jokic is a relatively laid-back guy. I suppose the word has gotten around, because most players no longer even try him, now, just the analysts do. Nikola Jokic has undeniably established himself as one of the most dominant forces in the NBA, securing back-to-back regular season MVP awards. However, as the saying goes, familiarity can sometimes breed contempt, and it appears that voter fatigue may be setting in. The accolades and attention heaped upon the Serbian maestro have become so routine that they risk overshadowing the remarkable achievements of other MVP contenders in the end. Regardless of who ultimately claims the MVP title, one thing is certain: the contenders are eminently deserving of the accolade. They have graced the NBA with their extraordinary skills, passion and dedication, and as fans we should cherish every moment they spend on the court. The MVP race is a celebration of the sport's excellence, and as spectators we are privileged to bear witness to this golden era of basketball greatness. So let's revel in the competition, savor the performances, and appreciate these MVP candidates while they continue to dazzle us with their best.